Hello, everyone. This is an intro presentation of how to code a calculator in Python. My name is Yash Patel, and I'm a computer science at WPI, and I'm pursuing AI.
And I'm Ryan Astor. I'm also a computer and science major with a data science minor at WPI. So the first topic we want to go over is data types. So in programming, there are several different data types to store data that the programmer might use through various places in the program. There are many types, but the only ones we're going to be worrying about today are the integer, string, and Boolean. So the integer is the data type that holds variables of just your normal numbers like 3, 0, 99, and also negative numbers, -5, -23. Strings will be holding different words or phrases in them, and you can see some examples below. Select the word hello and the sentence, and you will note that these are all within quotes to denote that they are a string to the computer. And the last one will be Booleans, which are just denoting a true or false value for use later on in your program. So in order to make these data types useful in our program, we have to assign them to variables. In Python, we use the assignment of just an equal sign. We can see some examples below of how to assign. So for example, if we want to assign the variable num the value 5, we just type num, then the equal sign, then 5. If we want to make a string that's a variable, we just have something like phrase equals, and then your string like Mulan.
Say you want to store just more than one data type inside of one variable. This is where the idea of lists come in. A list is a data type that stores, as you may guess, a list of items. It's denoted by brackets and separated by commas. So for example, if you wanted a list of superheroes, we have Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Thor. As you could see, the entire list is in brackets, and the quotation marks are there because they're strings, and they're separated by commas. If you wanted to access certain parts of the list, so say you want to get the first or maybe the last part of the list, I'll show you right here. So say here is a list called SumList, and it's a list of these numbers. Say I wanted to get the first value of the list, number 9. Lists are 0 indexed, meaning if you want the first value, that is at index 0. If it's index 1, then that's the second value. So here we did x is equal to SumList index 0, and that would mean x would be saved as 9. If instead we did x is equal to SumList of 1, that would make x the number 4, and so on and so forth.
So next, we're going to go into the 5 main parts that make up a programming language. So the first one we will go into is output, how to give the user information. So in Python, the command we use to denote output is the print command. So for example, we see you could say print and then an open parenthesis, and then we want to print a string, maybe hello world. So we put that in the quotes and then close the bracket. You can also just print whatever you want in the form of strings or even numbers. So another example, just print, and then this still open parentheses, what would you like for dinner? And then just close the quote in parentheses.
Here we have another thing is called input. So now we want to give the program information that we, the user, have. In Python, we use the command input as a function. So the user could type in anything and it'll be taken in for whatever the program wants. Here, we'll have an example called name is equal to input, and then open parentheses. And then everything inside the parentheses will be what is displayed from the computer. So the computer will ask, what is your name? And then we can now type in like our name. My name was Yash Patel. And once I press enter, name will now store Yash Patel.
So the third part is having math so that the computer can do various computations. In Python, we will use symbolic algebra that's very similar to anything you probably would have done before. So as you can see from the examples on the screen, for the simple operators, we use the plus sign to denote addition, minus for subtraction, the asterisk for multiplication, and the front slash for division. So we can see that if you just do something like 5 plus 7, the num1 variable will be stored the value, which is 12, and so on for the rest of the examples.
So the next thing that gets into more programming type things is conditions. And this is where you want to do a certain action depending on certain conditions that there are. But at the basic level, we use these things called if statements. An if statement is a way of saying, given a certain condition, do these certain actions, only if it's true. So in here, if we have if R, here we denoted that R was true. It would say print R was true. Since R is true, it would go into the print statement R was true. Say R was false, then it would completely ignore that line of code and it wouldn't call the print statement. Another example is that not only could it just be Boolean variables, but it can also be certain expressions, such as 7 is less than 12. We obviously know that is true, so then it would go into the print statement, expressions work. There's another thing called an else statement. So say we have a condition and we want to do a certain action for that condition, but we also want to do an action if that condition wasn't true. And that's what's considered an else statement. Here we have a variable called exp or expression. Exp could be either true or false. We don't know which one it would be. So we look at this if statement to see what would occur. If the exp was true, then it would do the print statement exp was true. If exp was not true, it would do the print statement exp was not true. Only one of these two bodies of code will actually run. Only the first print statement or the second print statement, and never both. We could get into more complex things with conditions using elif. Elif is a shorthand for else if. Here, let's say we have a number, which is just num, which could be like any number, 1 to infinity. We'll have it do a question, if the number is equal to 1, then we want to print the number is 1. Or if the number is 2, then we want to print the number is 2. And then we have here, we're back to the else, where it's like a catch-all type of thing. Anything that hasn't been included above, it will do this part. Else, print the number is neither 1 or 2. As you can see, we have 3 conditions, and only one running a code, only one of these bodies will actually get run. So either the first print statement, the second print statement, or the third print statement. And here we have a table of all the conditional expressions that you could use. So equal, less than, greater than, or not equal to.
And the final programming concept we will touch on before going into our coding activity is recursion or looping. What is looping in programming? Looping is a functionality that's built in that allows the programmer to repeat an identical body of code multiple times instead of having to write the same code. So there are several different types of loops in programming, but the only one we will focus on today is the while loop. Here is an example of how to write a while loop. First, we use the keyword while, and then we have some sort of condition that will either equate to true or false, and then we have our loop body. The loop body will execute as long as the condition in the while loop is true. So it'll check, is condition true? If yes, it'll run the body. Then it'll check it again. Is it true? If still yes, it'll run it again. And it'll keep doing this check until condition becomes false. And in that case, it'll skip the loop body and go to the next part of the program.
And that's pretty much our presentation. And now we're going to go into our activity of how to program a calculator in Python.